Hi my friends, today we are going to make these mini drum sanders that can be used in the lathe or in the drill press. Hi my friends, how are you? I hope everybody's fine. My name is Daniel Villarino. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to make a drum sander, a small drum sander, and you will be able to use it both in the lathe and also in the drill press. The idea is that when you have a surface that is convex, like this one, you can always use a flat sander, like the disc sander or the band sander, to be tangential to the surface all the time, so you can reach every single point of that convex curve with a flat surface. But you cannot do the same on the inside. So for that, drum sanders are used. So they look a little like this, a small cylinder of wood, and they can go on the inside, and because the diameter of this is smaller than the curvature on the inside, you can always also be tangent to that and do the sanding on the inside. And I have several projects that I want to do in the future that will require this, so I might as well do some of them. I have here three pieces of sweet birch. This one is 13 inches long and is 1 inch square, and I already marked the centers on both sides. I also have two additional pieces, and these are about 7 inches long and also 1 inch square. Okay, and also I mark the centers. And the reason I have three is because I made the template so that you can take advantage of one sheet of sandpaper. The sheets of sandpaper normally have, I think it's 9 inches by 11 inches. So this will allow me to get 3 bands, one for the long piece and 2 for the smaller ones. And that way I can have 3 drum sanders with different grids. Now, I also have here, oh, by the way, if you want the templates, please let me know, send me an email to the email address that appears in the description, and I can send you back the templates. Going back to this, I have here the Jacob's chuck, and I have this shaft for one of my ball gouges, and that's big enough to get there, but not that large that cannot fit in, and it will get there pretty well. So I am going to use the size. Oh, I cannot get it out there now. There. I'm going to use this size to measure sort of like a tenon in the cylinder, so that I can fit it in the Jacob's chuck or in the drill press. So these drum sanders are today's project. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get to work. I have put the long sweet birch plank between centers. I rotate it by hand a few times to ensure that it is not touching the tool rest, and I am going to turn at about 1500 RPMs. I will make a rough cylinder using the roughing gouge. As you can see, or rather as you can hear, I am using music that is kind of Middle Eastern. The reason is that sandpaper reminds me of sand, and also of the dust generated by the sanding, and all that reminds me of the desert, hence the music. There are still a few flat spots. I am going to do the rest of the work to get a cylinder with a skew chisel. For that reason, I am raising a little the tool rest and getting it closer to the blank. When making these cuts with a skew chisel, I make sure of using the lower third of the sharp edge and keeping contact between the edge profile and the wood. I am going to move back a little the tool rest and also to lower it a small amount to use the Vedan. The Vedan is a tool that looks like a parting tool but wider. It can have two facets or just one like the one I am using, which is known as French Vedan. In the caliper I have taken the measure of 1 inch and I am going to reduce the diameter with the Vedan until the caliper will be able to pass. I will repeat this process in several parts of the cylinder. The Vedan is a very useful tool for reducing the diameter of cylinders, doing tenons and also to turn beads. In fact, it is also known as parting and beading tool. All these cuts will help as a reference to later reduce the whole length of the cylinder using the skew chisel. With skew chisel I will be making planing cuts until I reach the bottom of the recesses made by the Vedan, and every so often I will check with the caliper. You may have noticed both in these images, like in the previous ones, and also in other of my videos, and you will see that I do it with almost every single tool, that I try to use both the right and left hand. First, I want to clarify that I am not ambidextrous. I write and do most things with my right hand, but in the lathe I am trying to get used to use both hands because that makes easier many operations and allows you to keep a more comfortable body position. Just an idea to share. I have cut a small straight piece of board and over it I place an 80 grit sandpaper, and with that I will even up any imperfection that the skew chisel might have left. I am going to make two marks, the first 8 inches from the right end and the second 2 inches to the left of the first mark. I take in the caliper the measure of the largest shaft that I can place both in the Jacob's chuck of the lathe and in the floor drill press chuck. It is always convenient to cut the fibers with the skew, so the cut with the Vedan will be neat. In this case, first I am going to cut on the left of the mark, and there I will go deeper than the measure in the caliper. And now, finally, I will cut in the inside of the mark just to the caliper measure. I start to reduce the diameter with the spindle gouge, and from there I give the final touches with the skew chisel. I use the same trick of the board and the sandpaper to even up the diameter. With the parting tool I am going to initiate the cut. The first cylinder is ready. Now I will repeat the process for the other two shorter ones. To cut the sandpaper bands, I put a complete sheet, in this case 220 grit, over a scrap board, and on top of it I place the paper containing the templates for the bands. I am going to attach everything to the board so it will be steady while I make the cuts. First, I will make all the diagonal cuts. Then I will make the two lateral cuts to separate the longest sandpaper. Please note that although I am not producing dust, I am still using the mask. I use it all the time while I am in the workshop. I remove the central band. Then I can make the final cut to separate the two smaller pieces. I am going to repeat the whole process for some papers of 120 and 80 grit. To attach the sandpaper bands, we place it so the straight part matches one of the ends, and from there we begin to roll it around the wooden cylinder so that the other straight part will fall in the other end. I selected this method of attachment with cable ties, but there are other ways to do it. In the video epilogue I will mention them and why I selected this one. Probably this operation will be easier with a helper that puts the cable ties while you hold the sandpaper. I did not want to accelerate these scenes to give you an idea in real time that even alone the operation did not take too long. I repeated this process with the other sandpaper grids for the smaller cylinders. When rolling the band, it is normal and even desirable that there is a small separation between 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch between two turns of the band. This allows for some dilatation because of the friction and avoids one part going over the other, and is something that is mentioned in the large woodshop drum sander manuals. The band placement process will take less than 2 minutes. Here you can see the 3 mini drum sanders with the sandpapers installed. In the drill press I made a couple of big holes in a piece of pine, and you can see that the internal finish is not really that good. To sand the interior of the perforation, I simply put the piece around the cylinder, I bring close the tailstock and adjust the live center to hold everything. Then I manually adjust the Jacob's chuck. No need to exercise too much pressure. Do not forget that the shaft is a wooden one. To sand the open perforation is even simpler. and here you can see the sanding using one of the small sanding drums placed in the foot drill press. The surface looks much better, and these drum sanders can also be used to shape internal contours, as we will see in future videos. To change the sandpaper, you cut the cable ties, remove the old sandpaper and replace it with the new, and all the operation takes just minutes. The sandpaper can be renewed using an abrasive cleaning stick. Okay, my friends, there you have it. The 3 drum sanders, mini drum sanders. You can make them a little larger or even smaller. The large one works pretty well in the lathe. The smaller ones, I think, are more suitable for the drill press. Still, they had a little bit of a wobble when they were rotating. I think that I can make like a platform with a nail in such a way that I can center that on this mark that the live center of the lathe left there and stabilize the movement. But those are ideas for improvement. I use these plastic ties to attach it to the cylinder, and they work really nice. They are very easy to exchange. You just cut the ties and then you exchange the sandpaper. And you can do it in different other ways. Like, for example, you can use turner's tape and then attach the sandpaper to the turner's tape, or even use glue if you want, but then to change the sandpaper is going to be a little more difficult. This way you cannot use the streams, but it's very easy to change the sandpaper. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If that's the case, please mark the like button below, make comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please do so. There is going to appear the button to facilitate the subscription, and it will be until the next one. Cheers!